Hello, in today's foundation roundup, I have 6 pretty new foundations to review for you. I have different foundation types for different skin types and different price points. And as I always do, I'm going to share my experience with each of these foundations as well as what skin type or types I think would benefit from each. Welcome back to my channel. Welcome if you're new. I test out a lot of foundations, concealers, primers, powders, things like that here because I'm in my mid-40s, and as we get older, it becomes harder and harder to find these types of products as our skin changes. So let's go ahead and get into these 6 foundations that I've been testing out, and I'll give you my thoughts. Now, if there is a foundation that's missing from here that you've been asking me about or that you want to see, it is probably coming very shortly in another foundation roundup. There were just too many to put in one video, so stay tuned. I have some other ones coming, but if there's something you want to see in particular, leave it for me in the comments, whether it's new or not. I look at everything here. You should definitely know my skin type before we get into this, even though I do try out different types of foundations for various skin types. So I have oily combination skin, but I do have some surface dehydration, usually around here from prescription tretinoin. I also have very sensitive skin with rosacea that can flare up if I use the wrong types of ingredients, and I live in a very hot and humid climate the majority of the year. I always test these for more than a day. I don't do first impressions. I don't think that's very helpful. I test them out without primers, with various types of primers. I also do have to set these with powder, although you may not. And I will put my most used primers and powders in the description box so that you can see what I usually use. If you're on mobile, hit the title below the video. If you're on desktop, look below that title and hit the words show more so that you can see everything that I talk about in this video and mention as well as what I'm wearing. This is the most asked about foundation I've had in a while. You guys really want to know about this one. This is the Clinique Even Better Clinical Serum Foundation. This is $42 for 1 ounce of product. There are 42 shades. So for reference, my skin tone is light medium. I mean, that's pretty standard across all foundations. My undertone used to be very, very warm. Now it's more neutral, leaning warm. It's kind of difficult to find shades in Clinique foundations because they run a little bit darker than what they say they are. So I am in the shade WN38 Stone, although it's described as being very fair with warm, neutral undertones. To get a foundation that says it's very fair is really odd for me. So this contains hyaluronic acid, which is very hydrating. It's supposed to plump the skin. It has salicylic acid, which is supposed to help with radiance and texture, and it has vitamin C and something called UP or UP302. So the vitamin C is supposed to help brighten, and the UP302 targets the look of dark spots and uneven skin tone. So this applies very nicely, although it has kind of a grippy texture. And you'll see a couple of other foundations that have a similar texture in this and my follow-up foundation roundup that's coming shortly. And it does feel very nice on the skin. I would say that the finish is a natural finish, leaning slightly matte right after you apply it. Now, I heard a few people with dry skin say that they really love this foundation, but I found that some of the dry areas were a little bit emphasized. So I had to be very, very careful with any surface dehydration I had around my mouth, because you could kind of see that. Now, this did look really, really great with pores after I applied it. I don't feel like my iPhone clip is really reflecting that, but it did look nice with pores. I would say this gives medium full to almost full coverage. The coverage is really nice. Now, this did wear a long time, no matter how I wore it, no matter what I wore it with, even without a primer. So I was really impressed with that. However, I do feel like my pores became a little more emphasized as the day wore on, no matter what I wore it with. I feel like the clip isn't reflecting this either very well. I feel like it looks pretty good, and this was a pretty long day. But what you can see in this clip, I think, is how it settled into my deeper forehead line. And that happened pretty much every day, except for one that wasn't very humid. On that day, it also didn't get very shiny in my T-zone, whereas on normal humid days, I got pretty shiny in my T-zone. And it separated really bad and got just pretty spotty. especially around the nose and mouth. So I was expecting to really love this based on what I'd heard, and I don't know if it's just my skin type in combination with the area that I live in, which is New Orleans, by the way. So if you live in a similar climate and you have oily combination skin like I do, there's just something about this that doesn't wear well for me throughout the day. Now, on non-humid days or in, colder months, I think this looks really nice. So I think if you have combination skin to moderately dry skin without dry patches, this is a really nice foundation and would work well for you. And even if you have combination to oily skin, but you don't live in a humid climate, I think this could work well. But for me personally, this just did not work well almost every day I wore it. I was a little bit disappointed, guys. I know that's not what you wanted to hear, but that's what happened. Let's move to a drugstore foundation. This is the Revlon ColourStay Light Cover Foundation. On the bottle, it actually says natural finish, and that it's got a broad spectrum sunscreen of SPF 35, and it offers 12-hour wear. This retails for around $13.99 for 1 ounce. There are 12 adaptable shades, and I am in shade 240 medium beige. So when I look at this bottle and when I dispensed it and started applying it, I immediately thought that I found a dupe for my beloved #1 foundation, Dior Backstage. I mean, the application is pretty spot on. It just melds into the skin, but offers coverage at the same time. It's very, very skin-like, but kind of offers this magical coverage. It's so skin-like, you don't think you're gonna get any coverage, but you do. I would say it's buildable from light to medium, just under medium full, depending on, how much you build it. It looks beautiful on the skin. It's very pore blurring and skin smoothing, and it evens the complexion really nicely. I would say this covers more than it claims. It's also long wearing. So they claim it's 12-hour wear, and I would say that around the 8-hour mark, it did start to wear a little bit around the nose and the mouth and the chin, which is, kind of typical these days, especially with mask wearing. And I did get a little bit shiny in my T-zone. Now, when I wore a mattifying primer, I didn't get as shiny with this. But what did happen with this is that although it felt lightweight and hydrating at the beginning of the day, my skin started to feel drier towards the end of the day, which was really strange. And that happened on pretty much every day except for the days when I wore a hydrating primer. But on those days, I got a little bit shinier. So I did just have to blot a little bit more on those days. So this one is kind of a mixed bag for me because I really enjoyed it for most of the day until I hit that dry point. And I don't usually feel dry with foundations, ever. So that kind of took me off guard, and it makes it a little bit hard for me to tell you exactly what skin type this would work for, because I did need a hydrating primer in order to not feel that dryness during the day, but then I got a little bit shiny in my T-zone faster. So I did just have to blot a couple more times than usual, which isn't a deal breaker for me, but I know some people don't like that maintenance during the day. So it's not a Dior Backstage dupe like I had hoped, but it does look really, really beautiful and skin-like on the skin. That was redundant. If I had to say a skin type that this would benefit, I would say normal to combination. If you're super oily, I think you could wear it, but you just know that you're gonna have to touch up a little bit with it. I'm just not sure if dry skin could get away with it just because of how tight I started feeling later in the day, and I don't even have dry skin. I do believe this is the newest foundation of this bunch, and there's a lot of people wanting to hear more about the Dior Forever Natural Nude. I was really excited to try this because I feel like I've had great luck with Dior foundations. This retails for $52 for 1 ounce of product. There are 17 adaptable shades, they say, and I am in shade 2.5N, which is very consistent with my Dior foundation shades. They've also launched the Face and Body Powder No Powder. I will be talking about this in my March monthly favorites and fails, so if you're not subscribed, be sure you're subscribed so you don't miss that video. It's going to be going up in a few days. So the reason why this is called Natural Nude is not because it's a super skin-like lightweight foundation. I feel like some people might be thinking that. It's because it's made with 96% natural origin ingredients. So it's supposed to give you a natural yet luminous, hydrated looking fresh finish for up to 24 hours. It's free of talc, fragrance, parabens. It's also cruelty-free and vegan. And it's got a high concentration of water as well as moisturizing ingredients and ingredients that can benefit the skin over time. This applies and blends out very quickly, very easily, and it feels very lightweight and hydrating on the skin. That's one thing I noticed right away. And it does look very natural, yet not matte on the skin. It looks skin-like and beautiful with pores and fine lines. If you're looking for something that's anti-aging friendly, this is one I would definitely look at. This has a nice amount of coverage, yet still has a natural finish, which is something I found really appealing. I would say you could get anywhere from light medium to almost medium full coverage with this, depending on how you built it and what you use to apply it. There's just something about the way this sits on the skin so beautifully that was just really impressive to me, and how good it felt. I do agree that this is long wearing, even with my combination oily skin. However, I do have to wear a mattifying primer underneath this to keep my T-zone from going completely greasy shiny, which I don't mind at all. I mean, I have some mattifying primers that work beautifully. This did not emphasize any dryness on my face at all. I mean, it just looked beautiful on the skin. I would say if you have combination to dry skin, this could work beautifully for you. If you have very oily skin, I'm not sure if you are gonna love this foundation. And with combination skin, I would definitely use a mattifying primer in the oily areas. I mean, I didn't need one in my more normal areas. It's just a beautiful foundation. It really is. This is another hit for me from Dior. And it is nice to find a luxury foundation that has no fragrance. So kudos to Dior. It's rare. It's a beautiful thing. I was waiting for this launch, hoping I would like it, and I am happy that it is a hit. Now, I did just put this e.l.f. Camo CC Cream in a dupes video, so you've kind of had a sneak peek as to how I feel about it compared to the IT Cosmetics CC Cream. Now, in that video, I did state kind of the main reason why I think they're not exact dupes, and I will cover that a little bit in this video too, because there is a main reason. This retails for around $14 for 1.05 ounces of product. There are 16 shades, and I'm in the shade Light 280N, which is kind of odd because it's actually a deeper, peachier shade than most of my light medium foundations. So it's just something to note that this does run much deeper than other foundations. I'm not sure why. The shades are supposed to be adaptable, but I would definitely go lighter than you think you need to go with this. This is infused with collagen, peptides, niacinamides. All of those are supposed to plump, hydrate, smooth the appearance of your skin. It's supposed to protect you with SPF 30. However, that SPF is not mineral like IT Cosmetics CC Cream is. It does have mineral. It's got titanium dioxide and zinc oxide, but it also has octinoxate as the first SPF ingredient. For a lot of us, that's a big problem. It can cause reactions, it can cause sensitivity and breakouts, and there's just a lot of people who don't like to use chemical sunscreens because they are absorbed into the body, unlike physical, which just bounces the rays off of the skin. I haven't heard many videos address that, and I just really wanted to point it out because I think it's pretty important. However, this is vegan and cruelty-free. I want to note that as well. This has a thick texture and it kind of grips to the skin, so it takes a little bit to apply it, but it does blend out very easily. It gives a natural radiant finish before I set it. It gives a softer radiance after I set it. I would say the coverage is medium to medium full, and it is long wearing. Every day I wore it, it wore very well throughout the day. It gives it a natural look to the skin. I can get a little bit shiny with it, so I do have to blot, you know, a couple times as the day goes on. I mean, that's just what happens when you have combination or oily skin, you know, with most foundations. It's lightweight when the day starts out, but I can start to kind of feel it on my face as the day goes on. I feel like pretty much any skin type could wear this depending on how you like your foundation. If you like a nice soft radiance, if you like a lot of radiance and you don't want to set it, you could go that way. It didn't catch on my dry patches, so I feel like dry skin could wear this nicely. If you have oily skin and you don't mind blotting a couple of times, I mean, I didn't look greasy when I had to blot, so you know, it was fine. It's a good CC cream that gives nice coverage if you don't mind that chemical component. So that's my drawback with this. Now we have the tiniest bottle out of this bunch. This is the Marc Jacobs Extra Shot Caffeine Concealer and Foundation. This is $39 for 0.5 ounces. Yes, you heard me right. 0.5 ounces, about half of all of these other foundations. There are 30 shades. I am in the shade Light 180. I'm going to get into this shade a little bit more because it is lighter than I would go for my face, but it is a concealer and foundation in one. This is a vegan product and it's supposed to be crease resistant as well as hydrating. It has caffeine that visibly re-energizes and revives the skin. It's got oat extract that calms and soothes the skin, and it's got 5 forms of coconut that are supposed to hydrate and nourish the skin with vitamins and nutrients. So this has this doe foot. You know, it's not a huge doe foot, but you know, it's supposed to make it easy so that you can apply it as a concealer as well as a foundation. It has a thick consistency to it, so I find it takes a little while to blend it out, but I find that it feels nice and light despite being so thick and despite having to, you know, take some time to blend it out. I think they claim it gives full coverage. I do not agree with that. I think it gives medium to maybe medium full coverage, which for a foundation I like. For a concealer, I do not like. I want a fuller coverage concealer because I am someone who has dark circles. I have to use a corrector underneath my concealer and I need that extra coverage underneath my eyes. There's a few reasons why I'm always a little bit skeptical of foundation concealer in one type products. Number one, you know, I have a different skin type on my face than I have under my eyes. I'm dry under my eyes and I have oily combination skin. So I always wonder how that's going to work. Now, I will say with this product, I didn't have an issue. If I used the right primer in my T-zone, it did work nicely as far as texture goes underneath my eyes as well as on my face. Second is the coverage level, which I kind of touched on a while ago. I want something a little bit fuller coverage underneath my eyes because I have dark circles and they need to be covered. I don't always want full coverage on my face. You know, you can tweak that with your application method. So that's not my main concern. My main issue is the shade level, the shade intensity, as well as the undertone. So my concealer shades are always about a half a shade lighter than my foundation shades. And you can't do that if you're dealing with an all-in-one. And if your undertone is warm, that's typically not going to work underneath your eyes because, you know, if you have dark circles, you typically, most of the time, have a purple or a blue undertone with your dark circles, and that means you need a, you know, a peach or pink undertone underneath your eyes. So it makes it a little bit difficult to think about using an all-in-one. Yellow undertones underneath the eyes just typically do not work well on a lot of people. I mean, it depends on your undertones, but on me, they don't work. So I went with this light 180, which I knew was going to be too light for my face, but I wanted it to work underneath my eyes, and I figured I could just deepen up my face with bronzer, which is what I did, but it's still too neutral yellow to really be effective, and it doesn't offer enough coverage either. However, if you don't have super dark circles, this could work for you for both. You could just get your face shade and be done with it. You know, it looked good on the pores, it looked nice on the skin and natural. It wore a decent amount of time during the day. Now, I did get kind of shiny in my T-zone. Now, if you have super dry skin, I think you might have kind of a hard time blending this out just because it wanted to grip to the skin so much. I think it's more for normal to combination oily, maybe, but I do think it can get a little bit shiny in the T-zone. So it's kind of hard to figure out who this would work for. I'm just not a fan of this product overall. I mean, if I'm going to use an all-in-one, I would typically use a stick foundation. I just think they're more seamless, they're easier to work with, they're easier to blend out. This was just kind of a miss all around for me. I think this is the least expensive foundation out of the sponge. This is the Essence Pretty Natural Hydrating Foundation, which I have already talked about in a couple of videos, but it deserves to be in an official foundation roundup with its own review. This retails for $6.99 for 1.05 ounces. There are 31 shades. I'm in the shade 70 Warm Cashew. This is cruelty-free and vegan. It's also oil-free, alcohol-free, and gluten-free. This is a hydrating foundation that has hyaluronic acid as well as aloe vera. I put this in a recent dupes video as a fantastic dupe for Urban Decay Hydromaniac Foundation because they're both extremely hydrating and give soft radiance, but they're not too radiant for someone like me with oily combination skin, and they're long wearing. Typically, foundations like this break down on my skin and don't wear for a long time or make me look too greasy during the day. This is a fantastic foundation. I was very, very surprised by this. This applies very easily, very quickly. It feels lightweight on the skin. This gives a natural soft radiance and looks beautiful with pores and gives medium coverage. I get some shine in my T-zone during the day, nothing out of control, and it's not a greasy shine. This is such a beautiful foundation. It's such a great price that I truly think any skin type can wear. It's just so flattering. This was such a great surprise for me, such a great discovery. Speaking of surprises, I just did a video on 7 products that surprised me in a good way. I'll have that linked here for you if you haven't seen it. If you found this video helpful, give it a thumbs up. And if you're not subscribed to my channel, be sure and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any future uploads, as well as another foundation roundup that has even more new releases in it. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.